Bradley Cooper's Maestro, a sublime portrait of the conductor and composer, music legend Leonard Bernstein, portrayed by Bradley Cooper. But it's also a penetrating portrait of a marriage, a complicated marriage between Bernstein and his wife Felicia, played magnificently by Carey Mulligan. It's a great performance, by the way. It's the public and private side of a landmark artist. The movie is beautiful on the eye and the ear. It's as if Bernstein's landmark compositions for West Side Story, On the Town, and his other works are a character in the movie. Please join me in welcoming some of Maestro's key creatives to the London Contenders stage. Producer, Christy McCusker-Krieger. Production designer, Kevin Thompson. Costume designer, Mark Bridges. Did I make that? Did I get that wrong before? Anyway. And makeup designer, Kazoo Hiro. But please sit. But before we get into the conversation, let's have a look at a teaser from this great movie.
Oh, well, it's 12.
No.
6.
No.
8.
Can you try, just concentrate.
Maybe I should stop and think for a second.
You should stop and think, because I am sending it to you.
20.
No.
So how long do we have to do this for?
Oh, we need to build up a very strong connection. Are you itching to move?
No, I'm not.
Good.
Actually, at all. I'm thinking of a number.
Oh, I don't know. 9.
No.
5.
No, you have to think.
I'm trying to.
It's 2, darling.
2.
It's 2. Like us, a pair. 2 little ducks in a pond.
So, Christy, 2 ducks in a pond. It's about those 2 people, husband and wife, 2 artists. How did it come about?
Well, the project had been in development for a lot of years. Fred Berner and Amy Durning had the project with Marty Scorsese attached to direct, and then a bunch of years had passed, and Josh Singer, who had written the script for them, he turned to us and said, it doesn't seem to be going right now, so what do you think? And Steven read the script, and he thought it was great, and he thought it was a great idea for a movie, and so he signed on to direct it. And I signed on to produce it with him, and then we went to Bradley Cooper. We thought he would make an excellent Leonard Bernstein, and he read the script we literally sent it to him on a Saturday. He read it within 3 hours and said, I'm interested in this idea. It sounds great. I want in. So he was going to play Leonard Bernstein, and we were sort of off to the races. And then Steven was making West Side Story, and he wasn't going to make the movie. And so Bradley said, if you're not going to make the movie, I've just finished this little film that's not out yet called A Star is Born, and would you come watch it? And if you like it, would you let me throw my hat in the ring to direct? And so Josh, Steven, and I went to watch the movie with Bradley in a screening room, and 20 minutes in, Steven sort of crawled over to Bradley and said, you're fucking directing this movie. So
it's a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer. So Bradley became the director and the producer, and he wanted to write the story. So he was interested in Leonard Bernstein, but he wanted to make it his own. And so what he did is he said, the interesting piece to me in this tale of Leonard Bernstein's life is the marriage. And so he went in and he had Josh help him write the script. And they wrote a movie about a really complicated love story, marriage, family life, and a movie about art in the end.
And this is also the great thing about the movie. It kind of shows Bernstein. His great thing was to, in order to make the music, he needed that complexity in his life almost, didn't he? Mm-hmm.
She was the scaffolding, and she really Felicia was really his rock, and she was there for him. But yeah, no, it's everything. It's his entire life. It's who Leonard Bernstein was.
Got it, got it. And also the music is like a major character, isn't
Nuclear energy in the film.
it? Yeah. So, Kevin. Yes. Got that right. Sorry, little private joke there. But Kevin, talk to me about the production design, because sort of you've invested in their character to create the production design in their homes where they lived. How did you do that?
There's anytime you do a period movie that has decade after decade after decade, you start by going deep into the research and their lives, and you read everything. You get all the technical aspects right. But it was important for Bradley and I to understand the story that he wanted to tell of these two characters. So we needed to provide intimate details into who they were. And we did that through the domestic aspects of their lives, the country house in Connecticut, where we used the actual Bernstein house. The children still own it. We converted it back to the correct period and used that. And that informed our set builds of the other major residences, the legendary Dakota apartment, which is on Central Park West, and I think everybody knows about the Dakota and the history. The Osborne apartment, and the little apartment above Carnegie Hall where he started renting when he was a musician and a young composer.
That's where we see him at the top of the movie, right?
Yes, and it's that which leads into the scene where he gets his Carnegie Hall debut. Very complicated camera shot. Very complicated set build.
It's a terrific shot because you take him from the top of the Carnegie Hall all the way down into the auditorium, and it's like done in one shot.
Right.
Almost.
Well, you take him to the third tier box in the middle and the back, and then the camera goes all the way to the stage and then goes back to him as he runs out. It's a brilliant shot. And that opening sequence was one of the first things that Bradley had imagined when he talked to me about designing this movie. And it is pretty much exactly, it went through a lot of incarnations, a lot of detail changes, but it's pretty much exactly the way he had it in his mind.
And you do a similar shot when the couple, in fact you saw it in the teaser there, when they're sort of sitting back to back and then they run into the
She says
hall, right?
They're in the countryside in Tanglewood at a luncheon outside, and she grabs his hand and says, I want to see what you're talking about when you say you're doing this commercial Broadway music instead of the classical stuff. And she grabs him and she takes him into the theater in New York. It's kind of a magical realism scene. And they end up in the St. James Theater and go up on stage, and we see the beginnings of
On the town.
what was on the town. The beginning was a piece that Bernstein composed for a Jerome Robbins dance piece called Fancy Free, which was about three sailors, and it eventually led to On the Town. Yeah.
Now, Mark, so talking about this film covers 5 decades, so sort of putting the costumes together from the late 30s, right?
No, I believe
Early 40s?
43 was his debut.
And then all the way through to 1990 when he passed.
Yes,
So
yes.
talk to me about putting the costume together for not just for Leonard, but also for Felicia and her family.
Yeah, it was great fun trying to span all that time, and how would we tell the story of each of the decades, and using fashion to tell a story, the shoulder pad on women's dress, hem length, what was in style, sleeveless, shapeless dresses for the late 60s, early 70s. There are choices that I made of what designer would Felicia have used. She was a very chic woman. All of our research showed that. She really played the Mrs. Maestro role beautifully for the public. And so it was interesting to take in all the research and pick and choose how to tell that story from that research. It was great.
the point about the movie is it's public and private. And so to show us the private side, there's a lovely scene, I think, at Fairfield when they're having an argument and she disappears through the window and then goes into the swimming pool.
Yeah, and also we were able to use one of Felicia's dresses for the scenes at the country house. Jamie took us out to the house. We were able to look at the pictures on the fridge and also go into their closets.
What do you mean, they've kept the closets?
Yes.
Some of their clothes.
Yes, they
a lot
did.
of her designer stuff in New York went after she passed away, but in the country house, there's a blue and white gingham dress that Carrie is using at the country house with a big piece of rickrack on it, and that was really Felicia's dress. And so it was great to have that energy. And it was something that Jamie said, oh, yeah, my mother always wore these dresses when we were at the country house. So I thought it was perfect. It was perfect for the scene, and why not use that? And we used one robe of Leonard's in the film, too.
And I noticed that as the years go on, he becomes more and more flamboyant in his dress. I mean, at one point, he's wearing, I think, a red or a pink jacket and stuff. Barbie. But so was that his own stuff, or was that?
No, it was ours. Created for the film. We made that red jacket. We understood from looking into his closet that later in his life, when he was kind of free of the constraints of conventional idea of marriage, he became more and more of an out person. And we tried to reflect that in his clothes and the choices that he would make. He wears a real vintage. There was a brand called Ton sur Ton in the 80s, and I happened to find that coral piece that he wears at the big dance scene at the end.
Yeah.
And I thought it was perfect. Too young, but perfectly appropriate for the period. So I was really jazzed about using that.
Kazu, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes.
Now talk to me about sort of transforming Bradley Cooper into Lenny Bernstein.
Yes.
Because we see him in the two ages of him, really, in his 20s and then in his later years. So how did you transform?
Yeah. So the whole movie has 5 different stages from when he was around 25, 26 to all the way to 70, and so the first conversation I had with Bradley, he wanted to do as authentic as possible, and also aging-wise, aging stages too, because in the movie we tend to pick more like a subtle approach rather than actual what happened, and so that was a beginning. And he also asked me to, can you make a nose plug, because
Make a what?
Nose plug. Plug.
Ah.
Yeah. So because Lenny had kind of nasal voice, and so he wanted to kind of help to change his voice even better. He did lots of voice training too, but there's something missing element. So I made the nose plug kind of incorporate in the makeup design, because Lenny had a wider nose. And so after I did a head cast and a body scan, I sculpted 5 different stages, and progressing from youngest is he has a nose and lips and chin, and also hairpiece and lift too, because it has to be a 20s, and then adding age afterwards. And the last stage is pretty much covered up whole. Even the body too. Body has to be bigger, belly and everything. So that was a process.
I heard that you got him that you had to get him into the makeup chair at 1 or 2 in the morning, because it was a 5-hour process later on, right, as he got older.
Right.
And I think he was keen to sort of be in the studio already made up with the nose and all the rest of it.
That's correct. Yes. And so the first stage took about a little over 2 hours. And the middle one is about 3, and the last stage is 5 hours, because it's all covered, and including arm and the bodysuits. And so for the last stage, call time has to be 1 or 2 o'clock. And he wanted to be made up as a Lenny to show up on set before the crew call, because he wanted to be in the character. And also he had to set up the whole shoot of the day before we start to film. It's not like a normal actor who can be ready when we start to shoot. So it was quite tough for everybody because like really long hours of the day.
There's been some controversy over the nose, and frankly, when people see the film, they think, oh, why was there such a fuss? He's playing a character. He's portraying someone who existed who had a large nose. What's your sense of the nose?
I didn't have, when I wasn't really expecting that to happen. Of course, there's a, always nowadays people likes to talk about the negativity, complain about everything, and so but the goal was just authenticity, and especially, when I was 18, I just started the makeup, and Lenny was a big one of the biggest inspiration because I wasn't so much in classical music, but I saw a documentary about him and what he was talking to the students for the rehearsal. It really inspired me, and they still stick with me. And at that time, I thought someday I want to make work on a film about the Lenny, and so now it came true. And so it was really important for me to represent him in a respective way. And also, I really thought he is such a, like an enigma and attractive looking person. It's like almost like his passion and the music really shows to his face. So it was very important to represent him in a right way. And so I was talking with Bradley, how we do it. And, we decided just to go all the way. It's not like a half-ass, so that was the goal.
They worked for 3 years developing the looks for Lenny. I mean, they
Yes.
worked for 3 years doing it.
And it's worked, because I met the dude, and he looks, as I remembered him, I thought he was going to jump out the screen and say hi for a minute, It's that good. But talk to me, the music is fantastic. What were the choices, about the music?
Well, he wanted Leonard Bernstein's score to speak for itself, so he really picked and chose all the right places to pepper it throughout the film. And I think Bradley, when he did A Star is Born, Lady Gaga was the nuclear energy. And for this film, he thought Leonard Bernstein's music's going to be the nuclear energy, like I said before. And so it was really important for him to pick the right compositions, the right periods of time, to, not use West Side Story in a traditional sense, but to use it a little differently, as you'll see in the film when you see it. He just, he knew that Leonard's music would speak for itself, and so he let it do that.
It's beautiful. And to come all the way to England to do the scene at Ely Cathedral was magnificent.
We worked with the London Symphony Orchestra, the London Symphony Choir, and we recreated a performance from 1973 at Ely Cathedral, and it was truly one of the most spectacular days of shooting I think we all experienced, right? It was insane to be in those hollowed halls where Lenny actually performed and where, you see him and Felicia together.
And I heard that the orchestra sort of, they cheered him, Bradley's performance as a
They
conductor.
thought he did a great job, right, guys? I mean, they really were
Absolutely, yeah.
so impressed with him. And a few of the players had worked with Leonard Bernstein when he was alive, and they went up to Bradley and really complimented him on, his skill and how hard he had worked to get it right. Again, it's like really about the authenticity of performance. And he
Yeah.
worked with Yannick, who was an amazing conducting
And
consultant.
quickly to ask you about Carrie Mulligan.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Quickly.
about her?
Well, just because, it's an extraordinary performance. I
Right.
mean, it's beautifully done.
Well, Carrie's such an amazing actress, and this film really sort of cements her as one of the actors for the ages. I mean, she really, watching her and her character arc, and she ages as well for, throughout her life, and so the 40s to the 70s when she passed away. And working with her was spectacular. She's just got this quiet elegance and strength, and she sort of, just grounds the whole thing.
She certainly does. And look, congratulations on Maestro. It's a great movie, truly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.